Hello, everybody! Today, welcome to another episode of Mr. Mayo's Poetry Unit. What we're going to discuss today is, in specific, you notice we have quite a bit of a longer poem today. We are going to be discussing form or free. Now, what that means is that poems, there are different forms that you can use, right? A haiku has a very specific form that it has to take, and it has to be 5 syllables in the first line, 7 syllables in the second line, and then 5 syllables in the third line. A sonnet is a 14-line poem where the first 12 lines, it's usually split up into 3 different quatrains. That's 4-line poem or stanzas, like what you see here on the screen, with a final couplet, a 2-line stanza at the very end. That's what, for example, Shakespeare's, which one am I thinking? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? That is a sonnet, and the last 2 lines is a couplet. Those are all fixed forms. And some poetry is written in more free form. So what we're going to do today is we're going to read through this poem, Soldier or Lover, and we're going to analyze how the form, or the lack thereof, depending on which one it is, we will talk about that in a moment, how that helps us as the reader to understand what the author is trying to convey. What image are they trying to convey? How it changes our understanding. So let's begin. This poem, as I've already said, is called Soldier or Lover. Now, right at the beginning, we're going to read left column down, and then down the right column. Okay, here we go. What sweet name do I hear cross the mountains oh so near? Lovely wisps of her voice sang cross the battleground, where fools fight for honor, of which we taste the sound. Whose untimely grace, who stumbles against her will, that can sing all the songs that fill me with such thrill? A fool is what I be, for the love I feel, beatings never stop it, I feel I have been sealed. What shall I do? For soon I fight with fools, stained my hands shall be, accursed, blasted rules. If my hands are stained, I'd sully her hands and face, for which I've grown to love, no, not even to save the race. Her light blue eyes that seem to me so clear, across the heavens now only do I hear. Is it such my family's curse, to woo women away, only to have them turned, so merry are they gay? Such thoughts roam my mind, no barrier they feel by time, as I march with brothers to fight the enemy, the swine. For years I remember, so clear they flash behind my eyes, where blood is coated with blood, where I broke my ties. Have you ever heard of a traitor to his life, as he struck down the father of his fantasized wife? Now, as an old withered man, the battle rages on inside my mind, where my love was a con. Whew. Okay, step back, take a moment, take a deep breath. We've got lots of things to talk about. Now let's first go through any words that maybe you had trouble understanding. Do we see any in the first stanza? Not particularly. Any in the second? Maybe wisp. A wisp is just a small catching of something, right? You might smell a small wisp of what is being cooked for dinner, and it actually comes from this idea of a supernatural being called a wisp. You see it in games from time to time, and the wisps are, in games, usually these small, mostly transparent, ethereal creatures. Let's see. Any other words? I know I had a couple that I wanted to make sure. Sully. Sully means to dirty. See, I knew I had a couple in here. We are going to make a small point. Yes, this is the word gay. Yes, I can already hear some of you either tittling or about to go off, and I don't know. It's a word. This is poetry. Either it does mean exactly what you think it means, and it's about homosexuality, in which case, get over it. Or it's what the word used to mean, right? If any of you still watch the Flintstones, part of the opening scene is about the Flintstones having a gay old time. It just means happy. So whichever meaning it is, and we're going to explore what it could possibly mean when we get to it, get over it. Either get over it, or it means this. It means happy. Boom, we're done. Swine. Swine is a word that is used for pigs, but if used in reference to people, is usually a very negative connotation, right? Those swine. They're horrible people. Ba-dum. And just making sure we understand withered. When something is withered, it's either dead or dying, and a con is something that you do to trick people, right? You have con men who are always tricking people in these movies. They're making millions of dollars by, just getting something out from underneath your nose without you ever noticing. Whew, okay, now let's take a look at the form. The form, as you'll notice, there is... Ooh, did I accidentally deleted that. The form in this poem, we can see, is very clear. It's 4 lines per verse. Each stanza it rhymes in the A, B, C, B pattern, meaning the first and the third lines don't rhyme at all, but the second and the fourth ones do. And we see that in every single stanza. Here, near, battleground, sound, will, thrill, feel, sealed, fools, rules, face, race, clear, here, away, gay, time, swine, eyes, ties, life, wife, on, con. Every single time, it's the second and the fourth line that rhyme. We also notice that as opposed to just reading this poem from the top to the bottom, it's 6 stanzas set side by side, and we actually see a reason for that, which I will explore in a moment. Right, there are 6 that are set side by side, and they're actually very narrative in nature. This poem is telling a story of this young lover, and he's just all about this girl, and he's, man, I can't stop thinking about you. I hear you all the time, but for some reason there's either this fighting going on, or for some reason they can't be together. This almost is starting to sound like Romeo and Juliet. In this first half of the poem, let's just say Romeo, the speaker, he's thinking to himself, man, I love this girl, I'm all about her, I'm crazy for her. I don't know how you guys might say it, but maybe he's thirsty for her. And he's just thinking to himself, man, all of these great things about her that I really love, but, how am I going to do it? People have been berating me. They've been beating, maybe they've actually been physically beating me up because I want to be with her. And what do? Like, if I want to be with her, but pretty soon I'm going to have to fight with people. I'm going to have for some reason or another, things are going to go down. Just like they do in Romeo and Juliet. Things end up going down, and Romeo ends up accidentally killing, Juliet's cousin. And he has to run. Well, something here. I don't want to fight. I really don't. I want to be in love with this girl. I want to hold her hand. I want to give her flowers. Maybe take her out on a walk. Go to the park. Stop by McDonald's. Get a Happy Meal or something. Just be young lovers, And then the tone changes. It goes from this sighing lover to, all of a sudden, in this very first stanza of the second half, her light blue eyes, that sing to me so clear. We've come back to the singing and the hearing. Across the heavens now only do I hear. Boom. Oh. What? You have to pause for a moment on that. You have to pause for a moment because you're listening to it, and all of a sudden, it's not what sweet name do I hear, active, present tense, across the heavens now only do I hear. Like, this is past tense. Well, it's not technically past tense, right? Grammatically, it's not past tense. But now he can only hear her from this great distance. Maybe she's even dead. She's gone. She's out of his reach. There's no going back. And it's interesting if we analyze the poem a little bit closer. Here and near, clear and here. Singing, hearing, and singing. These first stanzas on their respective side, technically the first and the seventh stanza, there's a lot of parallelism going on here, where this one's all about this thing, and boom, we are back to it. And we start to see why this poem is lined up side by side instead of just reading it as we do, and as we see it here. First stanza, okay. Second stanza, okay. Third stanza. They're set side by side because there's some parallelism going on here. And there's this break after the sixth stanza because all of a sudden he's no longer, man, I'm all about this girl. I'm thirsty for her. Man. All of a sudden, no. Either A, she is dead, or B, she is out of his reach forever. And the poem actually seems to pick up some pace. By the time that we get to this third stanza on the right side, in the second half, such thoughts roam my mind, no barrier they feel by time, as I march with brothers to fight the enemy, the swine. These first three stanzas, they could be said around the same time, sort of thinking, but all of a sudden, we pick up pace, and I mean we pick up pace fast. For years I remember, so clear they flash behind my eyes, where blood is coated with blood, where I broke my ties. All of a sudden we have a break again, even in the second half. And it's no longer thinking back, I used to remember when I loved this girl, I was all about her, I was conflicted, if I was going to be with her, if I was going to fight. Now I'm fighting. I am fighting, and my mood has changed. The enemy, the swine, I'm marching with brothers. All of a sudden, it's no longer, what shall I do, for soon I fight with fools. It's, I'm marching with brothers to fight the enemy, the swine. All of a sudden, Romeo here, he's thinking to himself, and in our transition for these three stanzas, he's more patriotic. He's going, man, I see a reason why I need to be fighting right now. I see why I'm fighting, because we're fighting the enemy, the swine. Where before, he was like, I don't want to fight, because I'm going to be fighting with these fools, where fools fight for honor, of which we taste the sound. Before, he was like, man, I don't want to fight. Now I see a reason why I fight, but I'm so, man, I miss her. And then we have a break again, right? We have a break in what's going on. For years I remember so clear they flash behind my eyes, where blood is coated with blood, where I broke my ties. This fourth stanza in the second half of the poem is very regretful. Almost, we might think of Romeo at this point as years after the fact. If he hadn't actually killed himself because he saw Juliet asleep near the point of death, right? If he hadn't actually killed himself and he'd gone on and he'd fought in Verona with the Capulets, thinking to himself years later, man, those were some turbulent years. I mean, it almost looks like he has post-traumatic stress disorder at this point. Like it's still in his head. So clear they flash behind my eyes, where blood is coated with blood. He's thinking back on these times when he fought with his brothers against the enemy, the swine. And in the fourth stanza, he thinks back on those years, and I regret everything I did. I still see those moments in my head. And then maybe we have a break here again. Have you ever heard of a traitor to his life as he struck down the father of his fantasized wife? Boom! Maybe this is in the same time period as the fourth stanza, but it is so, it's no longer just regretful, it is angry. It is angry. Have you ever heard of a traitor to his life as he struck down the father of his fantasized wife? Boom! Now we know why in this second half, why across the heavens not only can he hear Juliet, he killed her father. Either literally, or maybe he dissed her father in some way, if this is not actual fighting. Maybe, and this wording, traitor to his life. He's betrayed himself. He's not just regretful. He is torn up about this because of something that happened. And boom, we have a break once more. Now, as an old, withered man, the battle rages on inside my mind, where my love was a con. Traitor, con, with this last one, with these two, we at least saw some regret. Man, I really was all about that girl. I really loved her. And I'm more torn up in a way because of how stressed I am because of all this fighting that took place. By this last one, it's a complete reversal. I didn't love her. The battle that I took part in is still going on inside my mind because I'm torn up and still conflicted. I am so regretful and nostalgic. I don't really miss her. Maybe I miss the way that things used to be between us. Whew. Now look at this form. We've analyzed the poem a little bit, but let's look at the form. We've discussed that a little bit. This parallelism going on between the first and the seventh stanza, or the first stanza from the first half and the first stanza from the second half. How this form draws parallelism, and in fact even how these two stanzas, they rhyme with the same sound. Here, near, clear, here. Okay. And we see another sort of parallelism where, here at the what we might say is the end of the second part, or the third, the end of the third stanza on the second half, because really in my mind I would cut this section out as its own part, this part as its own part, and then down at this very last stanza is its own part. At least that's how Mr. Mayo would imagine it. You can, see it in any way you please, right? And I encourage you, if you see something else, in the comments below, tell me, what image does this poem put in your head? And remember, you have to do a close read. You have to include specific lines, phrases, or words that help paint that picture for you, and analyze it for me in the comments below. I'd love to read those. But at the end of this third stanza on the second half, as I march with brothers to fight the enemy, the swine, this is contrasted from earlier, where the wording that the young lover thought of it as, what am I going to do, because soon I have to fight with these fools, man. I don't want to fight with these fools, because these fools, they're fighting for honor. What honor? Of which we taste the sound? You can't taste sounds. There is no honor to be had. You can't taste sounds. There's no honor to be had in all this fighting. That's what, young Romeo thought here. By the time we get over here, it's, as I march with brothers to fight the enemy, the swine. His tone has changed. He's grown up. Now he is fighting. And he sees a reason for that fighting. But we change again. We change yet again because no longer is he focused on the people he fought with. He's focused on, there was all this death. There was all this death, and I'm still haunted by it. And I'm particularly haunted, in some small part, by the fact that I feel like I betrayed myself because I wanted to be with this woman. But even by this point, we see how she's only a fantasized wife. There was never anything there. She's just his fantasized wife. That's in complete contrast where he devotes earlier, these first 3 stanzas are all about, I hear her voice, she can sing all these songs, and she stumbles, and she's a little klutzy, but it's cute. Man, and that has completely changed. I want to be with her I wish that I had been with her I did want to be with her at one point too. Man, everything that I used to feel, and none of that was real. Boom, 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 boom. And we actually see that parallelism, right? We saw it in the first stanzas. We also see it in the last stanzas. If my hands are stained, I'd sully her hands and face, for which I'd grown to love, no, not even to save the race. He loves her so much that he would not want to be with her if he goes off and fights, because he's going to be dirtied from this fighting somehow. And he loves her so much, but if he's this dirtied being, if he's been sullied somehow, no, he's not even going to be with her, not even if it means having to save the human race. Last man, last woman sort of scenario. No, I don't want to sully her. I love her too much. Now as an old withered man, the battle rages on inside my mind where my love was a con. I didn't love her. Man, given the choice, I might have been all over that, but it wasn't real. And now I'm just conflicted because I went off and I did all this stupid fighting. I was haunted by it for all these years. And now it's still just, I'm this old withered man. And I'm so torn up and conflicted. This is completely different from that image that we analyzed in The Road Not Taken, right? By Robert Frost, when we analyzed that earlier in this unit. This is a completely different image. I have these 2 paths that I could take. Either A, I get with this girl, or B, I go off and fight this war. I chose this war. Now I'm completely conflicted by it. Now I'm torn up. I'm haunted by it. We get more of that understanding, Mr. Mayo is going to say. We get more of that understanding and imagery portrayed to us by the parallelism that we see in the form. The parallelism, directly across the lines, directly across the columns. Here, clear, near, here. I love her so much. Man, I didn't love her at all. So, this has been an analysis of our understanding of how form helps us to understand what's going on in the poem. And you don't have to have form. You don't have to write these in quatrains. You don't have to have them rhyme. You can just write it any way you please. But I do want you to recognize that form is in poetry for a reason. It's there to help paint a picture. It's a little more difficult to keep to a form, but it can be sort of the scaffolding, the infrastructure that helps the reader get a sense out of the poem. Now, like I said earlier, I am more than happy. I'd love to read your comments, with your own analysis of what you took away from this poem, and make sure to bring textual evidence with you. Do your own close reading and pull out your own interpretation of the poem. I'd be I'd love to read that. So, at this point, that's all I've got for you. This has been Form or Free, and in this particular case, we had form. Remember, as a small literary point, yes, we use words from time to time that you may find offensive. Just remember, it happens. In literature, we use words, and for us to understand it, we have to use the word that's actually there. My example being, if we were reading The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, one of the names of the characters is Nigger Jim. I'm sorry, but that's his name. We have, in order to understand what is in either the story or in this case a poem, we have to use the word gay. It's just there. Big deal. Get your tittles over with. I'm not going to go so far as to say is grow up, because you guys are, young teenagers, but I am going to say have your moment to laugh, put on your serious game face, and bring your A game to analyzing this poem. Thank you very much. That's all I have for you. Bye-bye.